Acts 7 to 9. Then the Kohen Gadol said, "Are these things so?" And he said, "Brothers and fathers, listen. The God of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia before he lived in Haran, and said to him, 'Get out of your land and away from your relatives and come into a land which I will show you.' Then he came out of the land of Casdim and lived in Haran. From there, when his father was dead, God moved him into this land where you are now living, and he gave him no inheritance in it, no, not so much as to set his foot on, and he promised that he would give it to him for a possession and to his offspring after him, when he still had no child. But God spoke in this way that his offspring would live as strangers in a foreign land, and that they would be enslaved and mistreated for 400 years. I will judge the nation which they will be in bondage, said God, and after that they will come out and serve me in this place. Then he gave him the covenant of circumcision. And so Abraham became the father of Isaac and circumcised him the 8th day. And Isaac became the father of Jacob, and Jacob became the father of the 12 patriarchs. And the patriarchs, moved with jealousy against Joseph, sold him into Egypt, and God was with him and delivered him out of all his afflictions, and gave him favor and wisdom before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And he made him governor over Egypt and all his house. Now a famine came over all the land of Egypt and Canaan, a great affliction, and our fathers found no food. But when Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt, he sent out our fathers the first time. On the second time, Joseph was made known to his brothers, and Joseph's race was revealed to Pharaoh. Then Joseph sent and called Jacob, his father, and all his relatives, 75 souls. So Jacob went down into Egypt, and he died, himself and our fathers, and they were brought back to Shechem and laid in the tomb that Abraham bought for a price in silver from the children of Hamor of Shechem. But as the time of the promise came close, which God had sworn to Abraham, the people grew and multiplied in Egypt, until there arose a different king, who did not know Joseph. The same took advantage of our race and mistreated our fathers, and forced them to throw out their babies, so that they would not stay alive. At that time Moses was born, and he was well pleasing to God. And he was brought up 3 months in his father's house. Then, when he was set outside, Pharaoh's daughter took him up and raised him as her own son. And Moses was instructed in all wisdom of the Egyptians, and he was mighty. He was mighty in his words and works. Now, when he was 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brothers, the sons of Israel. Seeing one of them suffer wrong, he defended him and avenged him, who was oppressed, striking the Egyptian. For he supposed that his brothers understood that God by his hand was giving them deliverance, but they did not understand. And on the next day he appeared to them as they fought, and urged them to be at peace again, saying, "Men, you are brothers. Why do you wrong one another?" But he who did his neighbor wrong pushed him away, saying, "Who made you our ruler and judge over us? Do you want to kill me as you killed the Egyptian yesterday?" Moses fled at this saying, and became a stranger in the land of Midian, where he became the father of 2 sons. When 40 years were fulfilled, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in the wilderness of Mount Sinai, in a flame of the fire in the bush. When Moses saw it, he wondered at that sight. As he came close to see, a voice of the Lord came to him, "I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Moses trembled and dared not look. Then the Lord said to him, "Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. I have surely seen the affliction of my people in Egypt, and have heard their groanings, and I have come down to deliver them, and now I will send you into Egypt." This Moses, whom they refused, saying, "Who made you a ruler and a judge?" God has sent him as both a ruler and a deliverer by the hand of the angel who appeared to him in the bush. He led them out, having worked wonders and signs in Egypt, in the Red Sea, in the wilderness for 40 years. This is that Moses who said to the sons of Israel, the Lord your God will raise up a prophet for you from among your brothers like me. This is he who was in the assembly in the wilderness with the angel that spoke to him on Mount Sinai, and with our fathers who receiving living revelations to give to us, to whom our fathers would not be obedient, but rejected him, and turned back in their hearts to Egypt, saying to Aaron, make us gods that will go before us. For as for this Moses, who led us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. And they made a calf in those days, and brought a sacrifice to the idol, and rejoiced in the works of their hands. But God turned and gave them up to service the host of heaven, as it is written in the book of the prophets, did you offer to me slain animals and sacrifices 40 years in the wilderness, O house of Israel? You took up the tabernacle of Moloch, and the star of your god Rephan, the images which you made to worship, and I will carry you away beyond Babylon. Our fathers had the tabernacle of testimony in the wilderness, just as he who spoke to Moses commanded him to make it according to the pattern that he had seen, which also our fathers in their turn brought in with Joshua when they entered into the possession of the nations, whom God drove out before the face of our fathers, to the days of David, who found favor in the sight of God, and asked to find a habitation for the God of Jacob. But Solomon built him a house. However, Elion does not dwell in temples made with hands, as the prophet says, heaven is my throne, and the earth a footstool for my feet. What kind of house will you build me, says Yahweh? Or what is this place of my rest? Did not my hand make all these things? You stiff neck and uncircumcised in heart and ears, you always resist the Ruach HaKodesh, as your fathers did, you also do. Which of the prophets did your fathers not persecute? And they killed those who foretold the coming of the Zedek, of whom you have now become betrayers and murderers. You received the Torah as it was ordained by angels and did not keep it. Now when they heard these things, they were cut to the heart, and they gnashed at him with their teeth. But he, being full of the Ruach HaKodesh, looked up steadfastly into heaven and saw the glory of God and Yeshua standing on the right hand of God, and said, behold, see the heavens opened, and the Son of Man standing at the right hand of God. But they cried out with a loud voice and stopped their ears, then rushed at him with one accord. They threw him out of the city and stoned him. And the witnesses placed their garments at the feet of the young man named Saul. And they stoned Stephen as he called out, saying, Lord, Yeshua, receive my spirit. Then he kneeled down and cried with a loud voice, Lord, do not hold this sin against them. And when he had said this, he fell asleep. And Saul was consenting to his death, and a great persecution arose against the assembly which was in Jerusalem in that day. And they were all scattered abroad, the regions of Judea and Samaria, except for the emissaries, and devout men buried Stephen and lamented greatly over him. But Saul ravaged the assembly, entering into every house, and dragged both men and women off to prison. Therefore those who were scattered abroad went around proclaiming the word. Then Philip went down to the city of Samaria and proclaimed to them the Messiah. And the multitudes listened with one accord to the things that were spoken to Philip when they heard and saw the signs which he did. For unclean spirits came out of many of those who had them. They came out crying with a loud voice, and many who had been paralyzed and lame were healed, and there was a great joy in that city. Now there was a certain man, Simeon by name, who used to practice sorcery in the city and amaze the people of Samaria, making himself out to be some great one, to whom they all listened, from the least to the greatest, saying, This man is great power of God. And they listened to him because for a long time he had amazed them with his sorceries. But when they believed that Philip proclaiming good news concerning the kingdom of God in the name of Yeshua the Messiah, they were immersed, both men and women. Then Simeon himself also believed, and being immersed, he continued with Philip, and seeing signs and great miracles occurred, he was amazed. Now when the emissaries who were at Jerusalem heard that Samaria had received the word of God, they sent Peter and John to them, who, when they had come down, prayed for them, that they might receive the Ruach HaKodesh. For as yet he had fallen on none of them, but they were only been immersed in the name of Messiah Yeshua. Then they laid their hands on him, and they received the Ruach HaKodesh. Now when Simon saw that the Ruach HaKodesh was given through the laying on of hands of the emissaries' hands, he offered them money, saying, Give me also this power, that whomever I lay my hands on may receive the Ruach HaKodesh. But Peter said to him, May your silver perish with you, because you thought you could obtain the gift of God with money. You have neither part nor lot in this matter, for your heart is not right before God. Repent, therefore, of this, your wickedness, and ask God if perhaps the thought of your heart may be forgiven you. For I see that you are in the poison of bitterness and in the bondage of iniquity. Then Simon answered, Pray for me too, Lord, that none of these things which you have spoken happen to me. They therefore, when they had testified and spoken the word of the Lord, returned to Jerusalem and preached the good news to many villages of the Samaritans. Now an angel of the Lord spoke to Philip, saying, Arise, and go toward the south, to the way that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. This is a desert. So he rose and went, and behold, there was a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of Ethiopians, who was over all her treasure, who had come to Jerusalem to worship. He was returning and sitting in his chariot, and he was reading the prophet Isaiah. Then the Ruach said to Philip, Go near and join yourself with this chariot. And Philip ran to him and heard him reading Isaiah the prophet, and said, Do you understand what you're reading? And he said, How can I, unless someone explains it to me? And he urged Philip to come up and sit with him. Now the passage of the scripture which he was reading was this: He was led as a sheep to the slaughter, and as a lamb before his shearer is silent, so he does not open his mouth. In his humiliation, his judgment was taken away. And who will declare his generation? For his life is taken from the earth. So the eunuch answered Philip, Who was the prophet talking about? About himself or about someone else? And Philip opened his mouth and began from the scripture, preached to him about Yeshua. Now as they went on the way, they came to some water, and the eunuch said, Behold, here is water. What is keeping me from being immersed? And Philip said, If you believe with all your heart, you may. And he answered and said, I believe that Yeshua the Messiah is the Son of God. And he commanded the chariot to stand still. And they both went down into the water, and both Philip and the eunuch, and he immersed him. Now they came up out of the water. The Ruach Adonai caught Philip away, and the eunuch did not see him any longer, for he went on his way rejoicing. But Philip was found in Azotus, and passing through, he preached the good news to all the cities until he came to Caesarea. Now Saul, still breathing threats and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went to the Kohen Gadol and asked for the letters from him to the synagogues of Damascus, that if he found any who were in the way, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. And as he traveled, he got close to Damascus, and suddenly a light from heaven shone around him. Then he fell on the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And he said, Who are you, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Yeshua, whom you are persecuting. But rise up and enter into the city, that you'll be told what you must do. And the men who traveled with him stood speechless, hearing the sound but seeing no one. And Saul arose from the ground, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no one. And they led him by the hand, and brought him into Damascus. And was without sight for 3 days, and neither ate nor drank. Now there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Ananias. And the Lord said to him in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Behold, it is me, Lord. And the Lord said to him, Arise, and go to the street which is called Straight, and inquire in the house of Judah for one named Saul, a man of Tarsus, for behold, he is praying. And in a vision he has seen a man named Ananias coming and laying his hands on him, that he might receive his sight. But Ananias answered, Lord, I have heard from many about this man, how much evil he did to your holy ones in Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief Kohanim to bind all who call on your name. But the Lord said to him, Go, for he is a chosen vessel to me, to bear my name before the nations and kings and the sons of Israel. For I will show him how many things he must suffer for my name's sake. And Ananias departed and entered into the house, and laying his hands on him, he said, Brother Saul, the Lord, who appeared to you on the road to which you came, he has sent me to you, that you may receive your sight and be filled with the Ruach HaKodesh. Immediately something like scales fell from his eyes, and he received his sight. He arose and was immersed, and he took food and was strengthened. Now Saul stayed several days with the disciples who were in Damascus. Immediately he proclaimed the Messiah in the synagogues, that he is the Son of God. Then all who heard him were amazed and said, Is not this he who in Jerusalem made havoc of those who called on the name? And he had come here intending to bring them bound before the chief Kohanim. But Saul increased in more strength and confounded the Jews who lived at Damascus, proving that this is the Messiah. Now when many days were fulfilled, the Jews conspired together to kill him, but their plot became known to Saul, and they watched the gates both day and night that they might kill him. But his disciples took him by night and led him down through the wall, lowering him in a basket. Now when Saul had come to Jerusalem, he tried to join himself with the disciples, but they were all afraid of him, not believing that he was a disciple. But Barnabas took him and brought him to the emissaries and declared to him how he had seen the Lord on the way, and that he had spoken to him, and how at Damascus he preached boldly in the name of Yeshua. So he was with them, entering into Jerusalem and proclaiming boldly in the name of the Lord Yeshua. And he spoke and disputed against the Hellenists. But they were seeking to kill him. When the brothers knew it, they brought him down to Caesarea and sent him off to Tarsus. Then the assemblies throughout all Judea, Galilee, and Samaria had peace and were built up, and they were multiplied, walking in the fear of the Lord and in the comfort of the Ruach HaKodesh. Now it came to pass, as Peter went throughout all those parts, that he also came down to the holy ones who lived at Lydia. There he found a certain man named Aeneas, who had been bedridden for 8 years because he was paralyzed. And Peter said to him, Aeneas, Yeshua the Messiah heals you. Get up and make your bed. Immediately he rose, and all who lived in Lydia and in Sharon saw him, and they turned to the Lord. Now there was at Joppa a certain disciple named Tabitha, which was translated means Dorcas. This woman was full of good works and zika, which she continually did. But it came about in those days that she became sick and died. And when they had washed her, they laid her in an upper room. Now as Lydia was near Joppa, the disciples, hearing that Peter was there, sent 2 men to him, imploring him not to delay in coming to them. Then Peter got up and went with them. And he arrived. They brought him into the upper room, and all the widows stood by him weeping and showing the coats and garments which Dorcas had made while she was with them. But Peter sent them all out, and knelt down and prayed. And turning to the body, he said, Tabitha, arise. And she opened her eyes. And when she saw Peter, she sat up. Then he gave her his hand and raised her up. And calling the holy ones and widows, he presented her alive. And it became known throughout all Joppa. Many believed in the Lord. And he stayed many days in Joppa with a tanner named Simon.